Hello, Talk fans, and welcome to the latest No Coast Defenders. I think this is issue 14 or 15. I've lost track.
I don't know.
That's too few numbers to lose track, but I've lost track anyway. So we had a couple trailers drop this week, and that's all I really saw in comic book news. Did you guys have anything else?
They did change the end credit scene for WandaVision, the last episode.
What?
Yeah, just
No.
happened today. Yep. So it's not much. There's just in that last scene there where she's doing her little thing. There is a shadow that appears now, which was the original end credit scene we were supposed to get before they didn't want to do that. So I didn't want to spoil anything for anybody. Check it out. I didn't spoil anything by saying this, but there's a new end credit scene to be seen.
Oh shit!
Correction, revised end credit scene, not a new. Much of it's the same. It's just revised.
All right. If they're going to start revising end credit scenes, I'm even more out on end credit scenes than I was.
Do you want to know what I think it is? Is they had changed it after they filmed it because they didn't want it to seem like somebody else was coming to the rescue. So it's. I think it existed before what we got initially, and it was a compromise for not changing the ending of the series the way it was supposed to be and setting things up. Kind of like, because, well, the thing is, so they said they weren't going to release any of these shows on DVD or Blu-ray. So it's kind of like that director cut kind of thing.
Okay.
So, not so much news per se, but I did learn today the possible reason why they chose to release Loki on Wednesdays. People are saying that that this latest episode was the creation of the MCU's multiverse. When did that episode premiere? June 16th, 2021, 616.
Earth 616.
Hey, yeah.
That is interesting, but their original statement was so it dropped on New Comic Book Day. But the insider story was that they wanted, like, Loki will be airing when we get Black Widow, and they didn't want to double drop on Fridays. But I heard the numbers have been so great with Loki that Disney's just moving all the weekly stuff to Wednesdays now.
I like the Tim one better. That's fun.
Yeah, I do.
The Tim one's way more fun and intriguing, but
come on, Feige.
That may become the narrative now, like how that little boy talking to Tony Stark was Peter Parker. Like,
no, the one that he saved during Iron Man 2 was Peter Parker, the one with the Iron Man mask.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Harley did show up at his funeral, though.
Yeah. If it's a good story, it can become canon, and we're not going to care. So,
yeah.
Did you guys get a chance? We had Shang-Chi and Black Widow trailers dropped. Did you guys get a chance to check those out this week?
I didn't see the Black Widow.
The Black Widow wasn't much. It was basically just all like the small teaser trailers combined into one trailer.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. I if they go by the comic arc for Red Guardian, I'm really intrigued by the rise and fall in one movie. Because Red Guardian literally died the second appearance. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with that. But I'm excited for the film, to be honest. I think it's setting up a lot to come for the other spies we're going to get down the road. And that Shang-Chi trailer, Abomination there, just...
I'm so happy they're starting to move towards this comic book counterpart. If you look closely at the screenshot, for anyone who hasn't seen it, they have given the Abomination, Tim Roth's character from the Incredible Hulk, his signature fins on the side of his face, as well as his spines are less bones than they are like fish spines.
And the color is a bit different too.
Yeah, he's a little bit more green, and his spines are more reddish.
And fighting Wong, I mean, that's just awesome.
How do we know for a fact that that's Wong?
That's what's been going around. And I've accepted it because I want to see it. But they also conveniently haven't released the full cast list.
Yeah.
Intentionally, I think, but it would also make sense in terms of learning how to use the mystic arts, basically. So given the story, it would make a lot of sense for the two to blend,
Mhm.
especially with the multiverse coming up.
Doesn't seem like a place he'd be, but we'll see.
Why not? It's the Mystic Arts.
Yeah, it's Mystic Arts, but you know how many students they have that could possibly be? Also, just circling back to Black Widow, I am so ready. I am just so ready to see Taskmaster. My God, I I think I've expressed this to you, Dan. I adore Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man run. Very sad to see it ending, but what they did to Taskmaster, putting him with Black Ant as just like a pair of lackeys and more so comic relief, makes my heart hurt. I need that badass Taskmaster again, and I haven't read his solo series, but I'm hoping that kind of brings him back to square one.
Yeah, that Taskmaster series has been fun. Yeah, that is. So it's been confirmed Wong's in the film. So yeah, that Taskmaster run that was really fun actually, and it's interesting to see all of the hype about it. Is he going to be a long-lasting character, or is it like a one and done kind of thing?
Yeah.
I'm really hoping, given the complexity of that character, and I know that Taskmaster's not a huge force in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the comics, but I think there could be some value in keeping such a character around. I mean, we saw Crossbones how many times, and he's so minor. So someone like Taskmaster, I hope gets
Well, we only saw Crossbones once, technically.
well, whatever, same character. But I hope to see him in multiple films if we can.
Well, and Taskmaster like has ties to essentially every hero in
Yeah.
the Marvel comics, and I mean, my favorite Taskmaster stuff I think came in Agent X. I thought Agent X was just a great run in general, working with that in that assassin field, but especially the rumors that we're going to get an Avengers Academy down the road, so Taskmaster fits in there at least in the comic books. So I think you're not going to kill him in this movie, so he's going to pop up anywhere. I mean, he could pop up in Hawkeye. He could.
Yeah.
I mean, he could cross over into the Deadpool film. Like he goes.
That'd be pretty sweet.
I've got my tickets for July 9th, so I'm ready.
Yeah. The one thing that I didn't like about the trailer was while watching it, I kept thinking about Age of Ultron and all the Black Widow past stuff we got there, but like nothing complete.
Oh yeah.
And we all know Whedon's a piece of shit, but I'd be curious as to what he didn't get in that film that he was going for, because what made it to the film was so incomplete and like snippets that it was just awful. But you could tell there was going to be more to it. So
as well with that line from Scarlett Johansson in Civil War when she's beating on Bucky, she slams her on the table and she goes, "You can at least remember me." I'm still waiting for an answer to that. Really.
Yeah. Which is interesting. I don't need them with multiverses. Obviously, you can bring her back anytime. We've got time travel now, but I don't need Black Widow in the current timeline of MCU. But anytime they want, they could go back and tell a Black Widow story from her past. It's so rich.
Yeah, I just I don't know. At first I was really skeptical, like, why are we getting this movie after the character's dead, all that stuff. But I just think there's a lot of story to be had there. It's going to set a lot up, and given the way that comic books work and the way that money works, I have a feeling we'll see every dead character again at some point in the next 5 years. So it's going to kind of set that up too.
I mean, if there could be 14 versions of Snyder's Justice League, we can get a couple Black Widow movies post her death.
Yeah. I mean, there's even a time when Steve Rogers comes back after being gone, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Chris Evans again. Like the dead are always undead when it comes to comics.
He's not dead. He's on the moon, remember?
Yeah, whatever the fuck they want to explain with all their time hopping and explaining away in the next piece. Yes. Yeah,
remember for the longest time that the dead were always remained dead with the exception, or the dead didn't remain dead with the exception of the second Robin, and even that eventually fell wayside.
Yeah. I just I don't know. I'm excited though. I'm excited to finally get a movie. The shows are great. I guess if you watch it all in a row, it's like a movie or two. But just a movie start to finish, no speculation, just boom, here we go. I have everything I'm looking for in one sitting.
Yeah. All right. Are you guys ready to discuss this episode of Loki?
Yeah. Are we planning to do some reading recs today?
We can do some reading recs if you have them. Yeah.
I can do it at the end. Let's get to the good stuff.
All righty. So this episode was. It reminded me a little bit of a bottle episode. I know it wasn't a bottle episode because we had multiple like sets and extra characters, so it's not like a bottle episode in the strictest sense of the bottle episode. But I remember the early press when Before Sunrise was listed as one of the influences, and everyone was kind of like, how's that going to fit in? Well, and we got it. We got a train ride and two people conversing on a journey. So we got our Before Sun. But then, like, when I was thinking about it, and I listened to a great interview with him on the Ringerverse podcast with Mallory Rubin, and she like cited this as being the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, like the whole this being the influence episode of it. And he's like, well, I guess you can look at it this, but really the first episode you have two people just talking and getting to know each other. The second episode you have them talking and getting to know each other. So it's true that influence is just all the way through there. But it was an interesting break from the previous two episodes. Tim, what did you think of this episode here?
Makes the second episode look good by comparison. My biggest point, and I'm sure Dan's tired of hearing this by now, but my main wish was that they threw in some arbitrary footage of the Minutemen and Mobius, and of them just arbitrarily trying to take care of the timeline just to break it up. It was way too long, and none of the humor really hit for me. And it was just boring. The more I thought about it, and I even tried to watch it earlier today before we recorded, and it just couldn't hold my attention anymore, and I was severely disappointed. I am trying to be optimistic and thinking like, okay, this would have been earned. Like, this would have been okay if the chase for Sylvie had been drawn out. If the show wasn't 6 episodes and it was like a full-fledged, I don't want to say sitcom, but a sitcom-like show with like hour episodes, what have you, this would have felt more earned. And I feel like they're doing it for a reason, because, and this is, I'm going to kind of give my, what'd you call it? The Reed Richards lock?
The Mephisto Reed Richards lock of the week.
Yes. Hashtag. Yeah, I think mine today is going to be, she was trying to prevent something to do with Kang, and by them interfering, they're setting things in motion, essentially. That's what I'm hopeful for. I'm hoping for something pretty epic like that, but at this point, I'm just not holding my breath, and I'll stop talking.
What do you think of the episode, Dan?
Hated it. I watched it 4 times from a different angle.
Yikes.
Yeah, the first time, I watched midday like I often do, and hated it. And I was like, all right, maybe it's just because I wasn't expecting the dialogue. I was expecting more, action, getting down to stuff. So I watched it again before work, fresh mind. Couldn't stand it. So then I got drunk and watched it. Didn't get better. And then I looked at kind of my notes on it, and I was like, the 4th time, all right, what am I missing? Because though I didn't like it, I knew there'd be a payoff in the end. Like, they don't fail us with many, many things at all. And a show of such magnitude, obviously we're going to get something. And I still I came with a theory that I think is going on, but I still just don't give a shit about anything this episode. In the beginning of the episode, we watched Sylvie, change the reality of an individual, or at least the setting of an individual, their experience. And I kind of came away with the thought after watching the 4th time of, is she just changing what Loki's experiencing in the setting as opposed to, is any of this real? And ultimately, it could go along with what Tim said too. And I don't need that to happen, to be honest. If I knew it was like a 10 or, God forbid, a freaking CW 24 episode long season, I'd be more forgiving. And I know that all these things are impactful, but I was just bored as hell, man. I don't know that the payoff will even feel worth it for me once I get it. And I've been hyped about the show, and I love the acting in it. I love the characters. I would just like to see more acting that guides things as opposed to just what we saw. It just felt very, very stagnant, I guess.
And I think this is the differences in between how we watch these shows. Tim, you're very like a visual thing, and we got a new setting, but there wasn't a lot visually. It was a mining outpost, and Dan, you like that quick pace when you watch, whereas I love a slow burn and dialogue heavy. So you guys aren't going to be shocked to hear I fucking loved this episode.
Knew you would.
This episode was fucking brilliant, guys. From even when they're going through the Time Authority, like, and they're fighting Minutemen and they're fighting each other and bantering the whole time, and so you get Loki on Loki violence and like a slight team up. I thought that was brilliant. And there's just so many subtle things in this. The first one being that, as you guys know, one of my theories was that Sylvie had worked with Mobius and the Timekeepers before, but when she was in there, she didn't realize she couldn't use her magic at first. So that throws that out. But we do learn, at least partially, her motive is that she's been on the run from the Timekeepers most of her life. And I thought that was a big reveal. We also learned that the Timekeepers are humans, which I thought was a big reveal, and also says something about her motive because she's been massacring these humans that don't realize they're humans. And without Mobius being in the episode, we learned so much about Mobius. And I mean, he's been drinking a particular soda from a particular age, a soda that kind of happened at the height of popularity for jet skis as well. So we learn a lot about him, and that goes back into tied into the episode before with him not remembering everything. Are those relics from human past? Is Renslayer the only one who knows? So I thought there was so much in there. And then for obviously the biggest reveal, and I've seen some people like question why it's important, but we know Loki's at least bisexual, could possibly be pansexual, and it doesn't seem like a big reveal because that's the comic book origin. Hell, that's the mythology of Loki. That's the origin. But we got that representation here. They've been able to change characters and tweak characters. They could have just had him be a hetero god. But I thought that representation was important there, and the implication that both variants of this Loki are. And it felt like a semi-confirmed that this Sylvia is a Loki, but it's kind of going to be a hybrid Loki. So it was just interesting to see all that. I thought the banter between the two of them was fantastic and so revealing for what's going to happen further into the episode.
You know,
So
at first, I
go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
first I loved the banter, and then I was like, enough. Like, you know, it's
too much.
cool. You know, I did watch an interview though. The actress's name is escaping me. Who plays Sylvie?
Sophia
DiMartino.
Yes. So she did say that because they're asking her about the source material, and she did say that it is a blending of your Loki stuff, your Lady Loki stuff, your Sylvie, and the Enchantress. It's a blending of every story, and we haven't seen this version of it yet, which is kind of cool. And I think that makes me happy that there is a second season in the works for it, because maybe that'll develop a bit more there. And that also made me turn my mind off of, all right, it's not the Enchantress, like that's gone for me. So like that speculation isn't there. I just, you know, I appreciate the points. I think I even messaged, was it Tim or was it JJ? I said, you know, I'm loving this after the first 10 minutes because they're bouncing around, and then there's the banter. And then I got about 20 minutes deeper in. I'm like, holy shit.
No,
All right,
it must have been JJ. I only heard the hate.
Yeah, no, I was, because I saw the hate for it, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then it just didn't, there was no change of pace. It just stuck. And well, I can forgive that in a film. It's really hard for me to do that with a TV show episode.
Okay, so just like the Tinkerer from Spider-Man Homecoming, I am curious by nature. I actually have seen some leaked footage from episode 4, which I will not divulge, obviously. But
Tease.
one theory that I will give again, without giving anything away, is that we may see, since Kang has always been part of the rumor mill regarding this show. We might get to see something Egyptian, if you catch my drift.
Already?
Maybe.
Seems early for my god, the one I worship.
No, not Khonshu. If you know the King character, you'll get what I'm saying.
Lost. I don't. You say Egypt and I go Moon Knight.
No, my guess is it's Apocalypse, since he has a history with Apocalypse.
God, I would hate that right now. That would just piss me off.
Not that deep. But yeah, you're pretty much there.
Who is what?
Am I being incredibly vague? Aren't I supposed to? Okay. All right. I'll just say it. Kang did take on a moniker of an Egyptian pharaoh. I feel like we're going to see something like that.
Oh, like an allusion to it.
Or maybe the real thing. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see Kang in the show, and if we don't, it's a disappointment. I think that it's already been alluded to with those artifacts because, I mean, he was an agent, so it makes sense.
He's got to be. Like, there's no way you can bring in a villain that huge in Quantumania unless you're only using Quantumania to set him up as the big bad for this next phase. It just doesn't make sense.
And if they do that, they're kind of wasting other characters that have been alluded to too. It's an interesting point to be at of how big are they going to make this villain? Is he going to be big for a storyline, but not big in the overall universe? Because I mean, there's a lot more to bring in, especially if we're heading towards like the Galactus route and things like that, or even the Beyonder. So there's a lot to consider.
I'm so ready for that side. I'm just, I can't stand living with what we have so far anymore.
Well, and when I think about what's scheduled and what's not scheduled but yet to come, I don't know that Kang is nearly as big as it seems right now. Like I think maybe first 3 features or something like that, maybe, but I think through Doctor Strange, we're actually gonna finally see the X-Men introduced in some ways. And that's gonna open up stuff for the phase after we get Blade and all that stuff. So we have about 10 more years to really get to that stuff. But it's interesting as we have 3 episodes left. And I remember I had this moment with WandaVision where I was like, I'm just done. And then they brought me back to life. And that's what I'm hopeful for. I don't think it's a wash of a series. I watch television differently than I watch movies. And so I need some sort of gratification and satisfaction with television because we've all sat through certain shitty shows just hoping that something else comes next. And I've watched so many CW shows. And to be honest, like I appreciate the dialogue, the scenery, but this felt like a CW filler episode for me. And so I'm hoping they prove me wrong next episode and say, this is why it mattered. Because I felt like I was watching a season 5 Smallville episode.
Oh, I think this dialogue was far better than most things you're going to see on television. This was like top-notch dialogue, and I think there's so much revealed. Even we've had a lot of like devil references so far in this series. I mean, obviously we're in the church with the image of the devil. It's a blue devil on the candy, and then even here when we get that opening scene with is it C-22 in from her memory that was pulled out. The song that's playing during that scene is called Demons. And then of course the lady with the shotgun tells them they're not travelers, they're devils. So they're laying this like devil demon stuff on heavy-handed. And if you're impatient waiting for the next action scene, you're going to miss that, Daniel.
No, I don't need the action. I just need the dialogue to do something.
And that's where I think the dialogue did a lot in this episode.
Just like it was on borderline cheesy for me, to be honest. Like I get what you're saying. It wasn't as smart as it wanted to come off as. I guess when you actually like sit back and watch it, I guess after watching it 4 times, I'm like, all right.
And now, I think if you start like digging into what the motives of these characters were here, um, I think the dialogue becomes so much more because you have two people trying to probe each other for information that don't trust each other. So you have to start with those simple things in the dialogue. So the dialogue's not supposed to be smart because the clever thing to do with this dialogue is to build that trust. So you get Sylvie mentioned she can't sleep around people that she doesn't trust. And then she falls asleep after this cheesy CW dialogue, as you say. So that served its purpose.
It didn't build those relationships for me, to be honest. It's because they're also both just trying to trick each other. So it's one of those scenarios of what do I take as face value? What do I say? Oh, is this actually real?
And that's what
again,
I appreciate.
If it was in a movie, I'd be all about it. But in a TV show episode, it doesn't do it for me.
And it's so weird to me because a movie's supposed to be 90 minutes of gratification, whereas this television show is supposed to build over the series. So I think your brain's backwards, Dan.
I mean, there's a very good chance that I have done a lot of drugs in my lifetime.
I agree with you because that's really weird for the sake of comedy.
What's that?
I don't.
Showing them trying to trick each other.
Well, and I don't think this episode was supposed to be played for comedy, though. I think this was supposed to be an episode that kind of gave you the heart of what these two characters are, while showing you how different Loki variants are. There's so much in common, but
I
feel like it was lost in the shuffle, honestly. What were you saying, Tim?
No, we really haven't seen many Loki variants. We have our Loki, and then we've seen technically one variant. I don't know.
So here's where I'm at, kind of. I don't want to feel like we're playing catch up in the course of the next 3 episodes. And so when I hear a 6-episode series and I watch an episode like this, yeah, the banter was there. Yeah, they established certain things for their relationship. Given the notion, if really is all these other variants and all this other stuff to accomplish, A, where the fuck is Heimdall? He would know about all this. And she would have the whole time. But B,
he's dead.
Well, is he? Because where are we? What time is different? But he would have known about the other variants to warn about it too. That's my biggest thing with this whole, like, there's a huge plot hole in this show to begin with that.
You could always limit Heimdall to only being able to see what's in his universe too.
Like, you could. They just didn't really build him that way, which is
they didn't build Heimdall well enough throughout the movies. Like, that's a running joke with a lot of different people in the movies. Is where was Heimdall for a lot of these events?
Yes, and I think that's a hole I'd like to see addressed, but I don't think I'll have that gratification with the show because it's not about that. But what are we building to? And maybe they can prove me wrong. Maybe we get 59-minute episodes and we get the end credit scenes that build on something now. Cool. At the moment, I feel like it's a wasted episode in a 6-episode season. And next week, hopefully I'll come back with my tail between my legs. My proverbial tail. And have a different take on it. But I've enjoyed 10 minutes of the last, I don't know how to do math in terms of how long the episodes are, but 10 minutes of the last 2 episodes I've enjoyed collectively.
And I've loved every minute of the last 2 episodes. Have you guys engaged with any of like the theories that are coming out of this? I've
tried not to, because to be honest, everything I read, I'm like, wow, that's a stretch. Wow, okay. It's and like I've said throughout this, the Loki character, though well established in the universe, there's so many different iterations. There's so many different ways they can go with it. And then we have the MCU incarnation that they've given us, which limits a lot of the other stuff. So I've kind of gone away from what everybody's predicting because each week it proves that that's not it. Myself included.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I mean, I just gave up. There's no way we're going to sit here and not overthink everything. And Marvel did its job. There's no way that people can guess where they're going with it.
Whoa, Tim, do you think we're getting a Rama Tut? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah.
All right. I can get on board with that. It just kind of, sorry, it just slapped me in the face. So you're going to Nathaniel Richards on that. Okay. Different Kang than I envisioned the whole time. Yes, I could see that.
Yeah.
It would set up a lot.
It would also set up half of our lock. So I I think it's interesting they put this in Lamentis, and it's used so almost never in the comic books that I saw a lot of people like just breaking down the meaning of the word, which I guess in Latin roughly translates to the mind, which also may have been a purpose, but I mean, could we get Annihilation coming? Is this gonna like set up like
Maybe.
way down the? I don't think it's coming anytime soon, but like this is gonna go way down the road. Also, it's like increased space, so
I'm
it
thinking
like just
Annihilation
that
would be a
look.
great way to bring in Surfer too, honestly.
Yeah, it just sets up a lot, just like that this place now exists in the MCU, but the fact that it does roughly translate to the mind, which is interesting for this purposes, because the big theory I'm seeing from a lot of people is that Sylvie actually took control of Loki. But my favorite theory about this is it's the reverse, because Loki pretends he doesn't understand the enchantment when talking to her to get her talking, but he'd explained an enchantment and called it a cheap parlor trick in the episode before. So my favorite theory is that we didn't ever go to Lamentis. We are in Sylvie's mind, and this was just Loki extracting the information about what she's trying to do. And most crucial thing about like what he extracts is the fact that the TVA are variants that have been mind wiped. I think that is part of the slow build to what we already knew is whoever is running the TVA is not altruistic. They have some devious purpose. But it was just an interesting thing about when Sylvie explains that you have to grep onto a person's memory. She's been to Lamentis as she's scouting these Armageddons. Loki has no idea where they are. So they can't be in Loki's mind.
That makes sense. It's just all so cerebral that I've kind of just stopped wondering, honestly. It's just because there are so many possibilities, and when they're pulling from every storyline imaginable, it's like if you throw, a dart at the board, eventually you're bound to hit it once.
Yeah.
So it's so hard with this, and I think that the show is much more surface than we want to believe, just given the complexity of Loki and the characters. But I'm really starting to believe it's a what you see is what you get kind of thing, and then there's going to be a big reveal at the end. Oh, we gotcha, and I'm okay with that, but I don't know.
No, I think that'd be a cheap cop out.
Yeah, I feel like that's what we're gonna end up with, though. I'm not as intrigued by this show as I wanted to be. The areas that are kind of stoking my curiosity aren't the ones that I've gotten yet. So, like I said, I hope I get an episode number 4 that draws me in a different way and makes me wonder again. I just don't have that childhood wonderment with this show at this point. I have more of I've invested the time sitting through this, and I will say props to them. It's the first time where like friends have texted me like, "Hey, what's up with this?" I'm like, I have no fucking idea. And so, we're all experiencing it together. I know that I'm very fast paced with things, and I actually plan to take my time with this one and take it all in. It's just I haven't taken in the right things because I haven't gotten them yet.
And I think for me, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted a slower pace. I wanted some what is going on, because I just love going in my mind with 1,000 different possibilities of what could happen. I mean, just who's actually running the TVA. I mean, it could be the Time Lords we've heard about. It could be just Renslayer using the Time Lords as figures. It could be Kang. It could be a Loki variant. Old Man Loki is the one I'm seeing thrown out there a whole lot. And then that ties into, as we've all said many times, there's not throwaway lines. And Mobius just said there's more Loki variants than anything. So if a Loki variant has taken over the TVA, of course they're going to hunt down every Loki variant as soon as they step out, much like we saw this one was instantly. So there's a lot of interesting theories, and
I think I'd almost rather see that now and work backwards, though. Like, that's my thing, is give me that and then show me what transpired to get there, as opposed to making me earn that, because then to earn that, you have to spend all these episodes explaining all of that stuff, so that's where I'm at, kind of where I'd rather start at the end and work backwards on this right now because I'm just not gonna be enchanted getting
for
there.
me, I went into this whole series thinking it was just going to set up Doctor Strange. So I'm not going to be disappointed with anything, since I just thought this, for all intents and purposes, was just kind of filler to introduce some new characters and introduce the idea of a multiverse before the madness happens. And I think that's what we're going to. It doesn't matter who's like controlling the TVA. It's just going to lead to the broken multiverse. Like, could the shadow have now been entered because it's a Loki variant stepping in? Is it Strange that's stepping into Recruiter to fix the multiverse that the Loki variant's broken? I think this series was always, we love Tom Hiddleston playing Loki. We love him talking to characters. Let's give him a series to talk to set up Strange.
But I feel like the show is going to set up Ant-Man much more than Doctor Strange based on where I believe that they are and the characters as well. And so it's interesting because, you're going to have those different planes and everything else. The Doctor Strange one's a really hard one to set up, but I feel like that changing of the end scene there, and they could have disrupted the timeline enough to the point where that opens it up too. And I think that what we might see is opening that up with Kang, and that's what sets him up as a villain overarching with things, because that could completely set off what Wanda's got going on, and we could see no villain other than Wanda in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So that I mean, it could really open up all of that. I think that's how it's going to go, to be honest. But
yeah, to me, just when you have the same writer being the head writer of the series and the movie, it just feels like there's a reason for that. And part of it is, this is a writer director known for dialogue heavy sci-fi like things, and that's what we're getting. And he said himself, if you could pick two MCU characters other than Iron Man to have just dialogue heavy scenes, it's Strange and Loki. So it always, the fact that we've now seen variants, that just like multiverse is now there. The fact that the TVA could be in the quantum realm, obviously that sets up for Ant-Man too. So this series, its whole existence, which is going to be annoying to some people, could just be to set up these future movies.
yeah, and I viewed it as that. I kind of want it more as a checklist to get through as opposed to what I'm sitting through. And the thing is, I love dialogue heavy things. I love a great script. I love all that stuff. It's just, for some reason, when it comes to these, I don't want the artsy shit with this stuff. I just want to get through my comic book stuff and take it for what it's supposed to be. And I know that some people are on the opposite side of that, where they like that approach. There's a reason why I read, and there's a reason why I watch stuff. I don't watch stuff to get what I read. So that's kind of my take on it.
Oddly enough, if I want something that I breeze through, I'm more likely to pick up an easy book that's to breeze through than I am to watch a television show that I think this is why I mock you often for your love of the Chicago shows. And I think that's just it. I don't want a show I'm going to breeze through.
So when I watch something, I watch it for an escape, not to get invested in. I have enough that I do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not watching something to be challenge the shit out of my mind, because that hasn't been done enough in the 70 hours I worked this week. So it's, so I watch a lot of basic stuff, but when it comes to a movie, I love a solid script. I'm all about, getting into that, but it's because it happens and it ends, and it's not what's going to happen next week. It's here's my feature. And so that's why I may appreciate this show much more when I watch it back as one entity, from start to finish on a Saturday afternoon when it's too hot outside because the earth is melting. And so I may appreciate it much more when I can watch it as a bookended sort of thing, as opposed to one and done. You know what I'm saying?
And that makes sense, because you also just love to marathon things, whereas I love a weekly installment too. We are very opposite television and movie viewers.
Absolutely.
Tim, did you have anything else on this Loki episode before we move on to our reading Rex?
Nope, I'm good.
Dan, you want to tell us how much you hated it one more time before we move on?
I'm still going to say I'm hopeful. I don't think they do anything without purpose. I just don't enjoy the purpose at all times.
That's fair. I guess we've got your Mephisto Reed Richards lock of the week. Dan, did you have one for us?
You kind of changed it, actually, because I thought that maybe she was altering Loki's reality, but you've pointed out how that wouldn't be possible now. So I actually don't have one, because you actually debunked my theory on this one. So
You know what? Any theory someone throws out there is probably the opposite of it anyway. But that theory has been like both sides have been out, and I've heard good arguments for both. The memory thing, like that just felt like a crucial line. And if you wanted, especially when she said you have to grab harder sometimes,
yeah,
if you are Loki and you want this variant version of yourself to trust you don't know how to do it, act like an idiot about it and have her dumb it down for you while you're grabbing a hold of her mind.
yeah. Oh, fuck it. We'll see Mark Ruffalo next episode. That's what I'm throwing out there.
I love it. I want Mark Ruffalo in every one of these series. So
yeah, and that's my take, because it's been a big buzz and he hasn't denied it. Nor has he confirmed it, but he's been less inclined to decline or to deny than confirm.
yeah. Yeah, and he's had that history of spoiling things. So my Mephisto Reed Richards lock would be that the actual villain is the mascot from that candy. It's no one anyone speculated. It's a brand new original character to this series. It is that blue devil from the candy, and that is why we're getting so many devil references.
Interesting. I can get behind that for some fun.
Yeah. Kid Loki was the only like real lock I had. Everything else, I'm just gonna throw shit at the wall.
It's a tough one.
It really is. All right, Tim, what is your reading rec?
My reading rec this week comes in the form of a what if story entitled In the Spider's Shadow. I think that's what it's called. It's a phenomenal story for those of you who don't know at home. It's what if Peter had kept the symbiote and became Venom. It's a wild story. There's 3 issues out as of right now, and all 3 of them were fantastic. The art's
Beautiful
really,
art.
really great. And I stand with a story that always includes Hobgoblin. He is a major part and a major catalyst in a lot of these events. And it's just a really, really creative story with some with everyone's favorite characters. And yeah, I thought I had more for it, but yeah, In the Spider's Shadow.
Gary B turned me on to that one when I ran into him a couple Wednesdays ago, and I picked it up and he recommended it. I read it when I got home, and excellent. I've been highly critical of the art in most new comics, and I've got to say that the art is fantastic in that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I will have to check that out. I love Hobgoblin. I don't know where he ranks in my goblins. Next week, let's give our top 5 goblins, guys.
He's number 1.
My favorite goblin is actually Jack-o'-lantern.
Ooh,
interesting.
Is he technically a goblin?
I mean, he's essentially a goblin, just he's wearing a pumpkin instead of goblin mask. So
Yeah.
he's not actually my favorite. I just wanted to make that argument that he was a goblin.
I mean,
I'm actually glad to hear both of you guys in on something that's like mainstream Marvel right now. I know we're all kind of like looking at indies, but it gives me hope not to cancel my Marvel Unlimited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, there's
at least some things to.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better lately.
Like the new Squadron Supreme is cool. There's some good stuff to be had.
I've heard good things about that Squadron Supreme.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. It's they finally got their head out of their ass, and I mean they've had to put so much attention towards the introduction and all that. Everything else just kind of shut the bed. Now that's finally done, that disaster. We can move on to some good stuff finally.
I think in the history of comics, anytime your entire line is devoted to bringing in one big bad, it's always going to be terrible. I mean, Onslaught, Apocalypse, and the Age of Apocalypse, like it can never live up to devoting your entire comic book line to that one big bad.
The only one that semi worked out was Absolute Carnage, and that's because the stories didn't necessarily rely on that. They were able to just include it, and that was done really well. But it's at a time where they were also introducing other like more modern characters too, so it wasn't just that character. But the Null stuff was just so overblown and just a circle jerk for people on spec books. But
And he's not done. We have another event coming up called Extreme Carnage, where Carnage, I guess, fuses with the life. What was that place from the Venom movie? The Life Agency or something like that. So like those symbiotes, like Lasher,
Yeah.
Fade, Toxin. Yeah.
I'll probably be passing on that. Dan, did you direct for the folks?
Yes, actually, Eve. It's from Victor Laval off of Boom Studios. It is probably the most riveting, relevant thing that I've read in modern times. It's basically we screwed up the planet, and now someone needs to save it, but also needs to save her father. 2 issues are out right now, and it really tackles modern humanity while also showing just the careless actions of us, what we've done to the world, but not in it's not like a grim story about like how the world went to hell. It's more of a story about how we let the planet fall apart and left it to the younger generation to fix it. So it's not this whole thing of like, wow, look what we did. It's look what we passed on and look how they're handling it. But it's done in just this really smart way, writing wise. The art is fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And it's so poignant that I looked at the end date for it, and it coincides with the final project for my freshman class I teach. And I'm going to use this series in my freshman class for my my civics and kind of just human compassion side of things for my final project. So it moved me to the point where I am buying a shit ton of copies of this book so that I have it for every one of my students. They don't have to buy it, but they can enjoy it. I couldn't recommend it enough, actually. I thought I was high Department of Truth, and then I read this. And once again, Chet at Rhinos pulled it for me saying, hey, I know what you're into. And Jesus Christ, he was right. I read 1 and 2 in a city, and then I read them again. And I haven't stopped talking about the series.
Awesome. Great on Chet.
I thought we lost my beauty.
Yeah, awesome on Chet. For you guys who don't know, we just had a little technical difficulty. I had to step out for a moment. But my reading rack, I like you guys went both modern. I'd mentioned Agent of X earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and make that run my recommendation of the week. Gail Simone was the writer on that. And much like oftentimes the street level heroes are the best part of Marvel, the mercenary world is kind of really, really fun. And I mean, outside of Deadpool, none of them get that mainstream thing. And I think even mainstream fans forget Deadpool is a mercenary, not a hero or a villain. Yeah. So just Agent of X exploring I think there's throughout the entire run, there's maybe a dozen of the mercenaries that come and go. Some of them played more prominent roles, some of them not. And Gail Simone is fantastic. So check out Agent of X, folks. Especially since we're going to get into a little bit of mercenary stuff here on July 9th when we get Taskmaster, which hopefully is going to be badass and super awesome.
Indeed.
All right, Tim, you want to give a plug or two before we get out of here?
Yeah, just our typical, check out Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy. If you haven't seen our episode, mine and Dan's episode of our Marvel journey, where Gary weighed in with his opinions on each of the Marvel movies and told me how right I am.
Fucking hate you,
Tim. Check that out. We are still on a hiatus, but we will be back July 22nd after Loki ends to discuss the Marvel shows. And, as always, buy local, shop local. And shout out to our local LCS, Rhinos Comics and Collectibles on Dewey Avenue. And that's all I got.
Awesome. Dan?
Tomorrow night, Gregory, Joseph, and myself record the mid-series finale or season finale or whatever we're calling it of Battle of the Ballots in anticipation of Joseph's wedding. And we will be picking our best song of the 90s and seeing if Princess Purple Rain made it out of the 90s from the 80s or if it got defeated by another track. So definitely tune in for what's going to be a Carson Daly filled, laugh filled, Spotify playlist filled episode.
Yeah, looking forward to filming that tomorrow. Usual for me, substack.com/Cool Points Newsletter, Cool Points Newsletter on Facebook. Battle of the Ballots, like Dan just said. And then My friends like cool shit. I recorded one last week with my sister. She jokingly commented that she loves her children, could talk about them for days. So I got her to talk parenthood. I haven't put it up yet because we got interrupted when one of the most like parenthood things possible happened to her, and we had to cut it short. So, but I'll be putting up part 1 this week when we schedule when we're going to finish up part 2 of episode 1, because we were in the middle of talking about schooling when something happened. So fun little tease for that. Love my sister. Love that she was willing to go with this joke and talk about me. And I don't have kids, but I know a lot of people out there do. So it's fun, especially I think in the pandemic, to hear how other people are doing parenthood. There's some support in that. So really excited to see the reaction from that. And yeah, that's what I got.
Oh man.
Cool.
All right, boys. This was fun, even though you guys hated the episode.
Hopefully I'll come back renewed after Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.